Okay, we're live. Welcome everybody to the Culture Clinic show where we help HR leaders shape great workplace culture so their people love where they work. My name is Skay. I'm one of the founders here at Gusto. Been helping HR leaders shape great workplace culture for about the last 10 years, building recognition programs. And I'm joined today by Shelly DaCosta. Shelly, do you want to do a quick
Hi,
intro?
really happy to be here. I'm passionate about rewards and recognition and been really lucky to have a great career working for companies where I got to work in that area, in particular public sector, healthcare, manufacturing, high tech companies, insurance, finance industry, companies like IKEA and BlackBerry and Royal Sun Alliance, and as
Awesome.
well as a little bit of consulting and some teaching along the way. So great to be
Fantastic.
here today.
So a reminder for the audience, it's an Ask Us Anything format. So feel free to put any questions that you have for Shelly in the chat there, and we'll do our best to get to those. Also, if you're experiencing any issues on LinkedIn, we've had some reports in the past that sometimes it'll skip back. So feel free to if that does happen, just hop over to YouTube. We'll have somebody kind of put the link here in the chat. So you can kind of catch things live there. Although it does sound like the last few weeks there have been no issues on LinkedIn. So fingers crossed there. Today's topic, Shelly, is all about how to launch a recognition program. So assuming that you've designed your program and put a lot of thought into kind of what's going to be involved in the program, we're gonna focus today on how to really kind of make a successful launch. So just as an opener, before we get into kind of some of the questions that we've gotten on this topic, why is it important to have a plan when launching a recognition program?
Oh, it's so critical. It's so important because you need to ask yourself, why are you doing what you're doing, right? Hopefully this is not just a tick box on your HR and rewards plan. I've got to get this done, I got to get this done, etc. The potential for a recognition program in your organization, it's just so many opportunities it can bring about. So it's really important for the program to be received successfully, for it to work well, and so the launch of that is critical too. So, plan your program, design your program, figure out why you're doing what you're doing, what you hope to achieve out of it, but also plan your launch, because that's going to really kick it off with your employees, and that's where you want to see the most success right off the bat.
And so let me just kind of double click here. Like, what if the launch goes badly? Like what's at stake here?
Oh my goodness. Well, the whole buy-in from an employee's perspective. I've seen organizations, launch a program, and if they don't test it and they don't do it the right way, you have a negative attitude from the rest of the employees and the leaders about how it's going to go when you do launch it down the road, right? Like, it's, oh, here comes another program. And you've missed that opportunity. You've created that energy around it, and now you're kind of not at the starting gate, so to speak. You've got to make up for lost time on your communications, on your buy-in, on the program, and where you want to be, because you want to assess what success looks like in the program, and you want to assess success at 3 months, at 6 months, a year. And so if you don't launch well and you lose all of that, you've lost that momentum,
Mm-hmm.
and you've lost the buy-in. So even if you're in both ways, because sometimes you're replacing a current program, and at other times you are putting in a brand new program. And if you're replacing, now people are saying, oh, this tool is not going to work as well because look at how the launch went. Or by the same token, if you are going brand new, what is this thing, recognition? Why are we doing this? Doesn't seem to be working so well. And that's not what you want, because this has great potential, great opportunity.
Love it. So it strikes me as kind of a situation where like first impressions count for a lot, right? Like
Absolutely.
we've got so much kind of on the line, and so much the success of the program kind of rides on that kind of first kind of week or two. So with that, let's kind of get into kind of some of the questions here that we've kind of received from our audience. So Steve here asks, what are the most important things to consider for a successful launch?
Okay, so a lot of things you will have sorted out, like we said, in the design. But again, when you go to the launch, you got to think about that all over again in the sense of, is it a new program or are you replacing an existing program? Like I said, that's going to be critical to how you launch. And you know, if it's a brand new program, you are going to have to be communicating about what recognition is and why you're even doing it, as opposed to if you're replacing a program. So it's all going to be slightly different tweaks in your communication. Have you tested the program with a small group? I've seen launches fail, big programs, recognition programs, HRIS programs, payroll systems, etc. You always have that test group or you have that test week, whatever, where you duplicate pays. You want to make sure all the links employees are going to click on and how they're going to, that's all been tested. That's all going to work. Um, you know, there's some very large organizations that have launched programs, and 4 months in, 1 month in, they basically have to pull it all back. And it's embarrassing. It's hard for when they do it because of a really bad first impression. And employees are just, it's so obvious when you look at the program and what went wrong that somebody didn't do their homework. You didn't dot your I's and cross your T's, and you didn't test it. You didn't run it by some users and say, does this work? Is that easy? Did that click? Is the system running the way we need it? Can I get to that link from here? All of that technical pieces, and this, the usability and the feel, etc. You want to run that by the people in your organization. You want to think about, are you taking a phased approach to rollout? And that can be a whole question unto itself, you know, in your design, or maybe you haven't thought about that. And now at launch is when you really want to talk about a phased approach and what it could bring. How does your launch align with your company values? You know, what are your company values in your organization? It seems like a silly thing. Why do I have to think about that when I'm doing my launch? But you want it to align. So if you're an organization that has said, uh, you know, we're all about simplicity and we're all about transparency, et cetera, then look at your program and how you're launching it and saying, does it echo simplicity and transparency? Did people realize why we're doing what we're doing? Have we been totally transparent with them? Is it a points program and they can't quite understand how it is, or what's working, what's not working? And then that alignment. I you know I've been for an interview for an organization that talked about family values and responsibilities and how that's so important to them that employees have time with family, etc. And then they booked interviews for employees, potential candidates, that would be January 2nd, right? And this interview involved a full-on presentation that you had to complete and prepare for a panel. And you're left wondering, well, if family's so important to you and everything like that, then to apply to work here, I have to give up my whole holiday vacation with my family, right? January 2nd is not a good day to be prepared. It would mean that, you know, the 3 weeks over the holidays would be all about prepping for that interview. And so it's just kind of, does it resonate your company, what you're doing? Think about your company and who you are and the feeling you want to present for your employees. Do you have a partner to help with the launch? How do they do it? Right? Obviously, you know, with Gusto, you would be partnering with your customer service people, all of that to help you launch. But are there other people in your network that have launched? You're a retail organization. How did it go in that retail organization? Are these people Gusto can put you in touch with? Who's in your network that you can help? And how did they do it? Know your metrics to track right from the onset, right? That would be part of your design. These are the kinds of things we're going to track. But also going back to that piece around success and knowing what success is going to look like, decide if I want metrics around the behaviors I'm going to now be rewarding people for,
Mhm.
that I know 6 months in, gosh, nobody is rewarding anybody for team building. What does that mean? Why? You know, they're all rewarding people for standing out and being counted, or they're all rewarding people for something else. And why isn't team building working? Because that's one of our behaviors we really wanted this recognition tool to help push. And so that in 3 months, 6 months, you can do that measuring. If you have concerns about a particular geographic region or a department, you're going to want metrics around how did that department fare 6 months in versus this department? Which leaders tend to be buying into the program and doing the most recognition? Where's it really caught on?
What's interesting, and our colleague Kwesi and I had a good long discussion around kind of metrics and how to kind of choose metrics for your recognition program. But here, the question is around kind of like a successful launch. Still, we need to define what success means for like, how do we know if the launch was successful or whatnot? And so having kind of some metrics just around kind of like that shorter period of time, hey, what would we like to kind of see in the first week, the first kind of 30, 60, 90 days there, without kind of like kind of getting too off topic here, but we're talking about kind of metrics. Have you seen in kind of the launcher programs, HR departments sharing kind of like what metrics they're targeting and what they're hoping for in the program, or do you typically kind of keep those to the HR department?
It depends. I mean, if it's the metric is something that we're trying to support in the organization and proving to maybe senior leadership or the finance team of the benefits of the program is going to get us this, then we're going to share that up front. This is what we said we would do, and here's how we're trending towards this, so that you can have the proof in the pudding. This is working. This program is working. So you would share those broadly across the organization. I think it really depends on what your metrics are. And back to your our comments around why the program is going in the first place. Like, are you launching recognition because you don't have a great culture in your organization and you really want to launch some new behaviors and a new culture, and you're using a recognition tool to help you do that in your organization? That's not always the best message to go out to the employees, to say things around here really stink. They probably already know it. What you're going more for is that we want to use this program to enhance where we're great and make it even better. Those kinds of metrics, and be all about sharing that, etc.
Yeah.
So again, it depends on what they are, but there's some real key points for sharing them, because then employees can help you drive towards that, or sharing them with leaders so they understand the why of what we're doing.
And I think we often kind of caution clients in kind of like sharing targets around adoption participation rates with employees, because if you do fall short, there's kind of a level of disappointment. But rather, once we've established a little bit of a baseline after kind of a few months, shooting for improvements on those, right? And so, you're not kind of out of the gate kind of falling short, but rather here's, where we're at now. And like, we're looking to kind of, make improvements on these.
And some early metrics can help you kind of pivot if you need to a little bit, right? Because that can always happen. But you're a few weeks in, and what's going on over here? Why is that group not, right? And then that allows you to maybe dig in, speak to some of the leaders in that department or that team, and find out what happened. Oh, geez, none of the leaders went to any of the sessions and the training. How can I, pivot and adjust and bring back some training for that group and get them on board?
Cool. Back to kind of like the successful launch there. We kind of got through kind of a number of items, but I'm sure you've got kind of a few more. What else is kind of important to consider?
Timing. So you really want to look at the overall timing of your launch, whether it's phased or not, and what else is going on in your organization. It can be sometimes resource heavy, the launch, and you got to look at where your resources are. So if you're going to be leaning on your comms team, what else do they have on their plates at that time that could pull them away from focusing on your project of launching recognition? Your leaders, what else is it? Are you launching a recognition program where you want leaders to jump in with both feet, participate, etc., right while they have all kinds of deadlines around setting goals or performance reviews in the organization? Is this year end and nobody's going to be paying attention to anything but numbers right now? So look at your organization, look at your resources. What else is on leaders' plates? What are you asking of everybody? And just, there can be some really positive things you want to tie into as well that's going on in the organization for your launch. Like, this is the anniversary of the company being in Canada for 12 years. So we're going to launch it on that day because we're full of gratitude. And this is going to help us with our new culture of gratitude in the organization, whatever. Like, so look at your timing from a resources perspective or from a conflict perspective or a positive perspective that you can harness and grab hold of. And that leads into the communication plan, right? So your how, that is critical to your launches. How are you going to communicate? And you may end up different communication plans for different targeted groups, different communication plan for your leaders versus your employees, depending on what's expected and how you're phasing it. And think of about we've kind of talked about a why and a what and a how, but also think of the who in your organization. So a team of champions is a great idea. If you've got a particular set of leaders that you know are all about this, they've used recognition tools in the past in other organizations. Again, it'll depend on if this is a change of a system or a brand new recognition program. Leaders that are going to participate, you're almost setting an agenda here with them so that they can set the example for other leaders on why this is so good, why this is great, etc.
Yeah, and in terms of kind of champions, this one always kind of resonates. I'm kind of more on the finance side of our business, and we often kind of talk to the finance teams when they're launching recognition programs and the tax consequences and whatnot. And so you have all these different kind of stakeholders, right, across the organization when you are launching something like a recognition program. The employees, the managers, the HR administrators, the leaders that are championing it, but the finance teams as well. And so trying to find champions within each of those stakeholders so that as you roll out, they can help to kind of get all of their colleagues on board. And it's not just the HR department telling people, hey, this is going to be great, but having some believers in each of those kind of stakeholder positions.
Absolutely. Like, just, remember your stakeholders and pay attention to them, listen to them, have their feedback. If they can be at your committee or your project meetings, I mean, really a launch is like a project in the organization. And if you're lucky enough to have PMs in your organization that can help sit on, your group and your team and help you dot the I's and cross the T's in terms of all of those programs, that's perfect because they're going to, champion your stakeholders. They're going to get the feedback on the stakeholders before you even launch. Right? This is how we're going to do it. Does this work for you? This is when you're going to get these numbers. Finance, this is when you're going to get your reporting. This is, does this fall in line with the tax pieces? Some of that's design, but at launch, again, you got to think about that launch of this as part of the overall project, and you can't forget the stakeholders in any kind of project management.
Now you mentioned something kind of in here, and it kind of ties into the next question. So this comes in from Barb, and we see this a lot where companies kind of overthink their launch or their program design and try to get everything kind of perfect. And so you mentioned kind of testing programs, phased launches. And so Barb asks here, do you recommend a phased launch to different groups, locations, or departments?
Yes. It depends on your organization, right? How large you are. Is this a new program, or are you like from scratch? You've never had a recognition program at all, so you've got to do the training on all of those pieces, or is this you're changing platforms, so to speak? And so all that's involved, and then your organization's readiness to accept it, how big your organization is, and the resources. Do you have the resources to launch globally or to launch Canada wide or across the US in terms of all your locations at once? And once you start asking those kinds of questions, you'll come up with the answers in terms of, it makes more sense if we were to phase this because we've got real champions in this group. We'll start with this group, and then it can help to get the ball rolling and catch on, right? So we're going to start in that particular location, and we can do countdowns. We can do all kinds of things to create the energy, but have them set an example. So a lot of times a phased approach, which I know Gusto really works successfully with a lot of your clients that way, is to do that. I think the phased approach is definitely something people should think about, because it builds it. And you literally I've seen situations where they're like, well, when do we get on board? I'm ready to start recognizing people in my organization. This sounds like a really cool thing. Or I worked for an organization that had a recognition program. Let me add it. I can't wait to get into this. I mean, that's what you want, is that energy. But a phased approach is often really, really good, because you can stop, you can pivot, you can move along, and as you said, with the metrics, you can turn around and say, well, we can speed it up because the energy is working so well, or we could slow it down based on what's going on in the organization. Because you could set it all up and be all rigid with your timelines, but you have to know you're still talking about people, and other things are going to come, and some other priority is going to hit the organization, and you may need to pivot and adjust.
And I
And
think
part of yourself.
I think that there's a phased approach to launching the program, like you mentioned, with kind of different locations or departments or groups. There's testing it, but there's also within your program design, and if you're thinking about kind of rolling out multiple programs to the same group of people, right? So like you might have a milestones program, you might have a manager reward, like giving managers budgets to reward their people in real time. You might, be launching a peer-to-peer program, and so phasing those launches over time as well makes a lot of sense. And we've seen so many companies get this wrong, where they try to kind of roll out everything at once, and the comms on that is very difficult. And so you're much better off to kind of start with something really simple and get some success, get some buy-in, get the ball rolling, and it'll get people experiencing, whether you're using Gusto, some other software, or some sort of in-house manual program. It'll get them to kind of experience that program before they're asked to kind of do this or do that, and kind of participate in different ways.
Yeah, go for some of your quick wins, and that will simplify your communications. It'll simplify the launch, all kinds of things.
Okay, so with communications here, our next question comes from Kimberly. She says, what are the most important elements of the initial communications plan?
Oh, wow. First of all, I mean, there's communication, right? It's not necessary. It's critical. Managers and employees, they won't use what they don't know about. And anybody that's worked in human resources, I guess for as long as I have, whatever, will stand up and agree. You're always shocked by that employee at the next town hall or session or one-on-one, whatever, that comes to you and says, I didn't know we had that. And you're like, it's in your orientation package. It was communicated. We had a launch. We put it on every single thing we possibly could. And you didn't know we had that. And you've worked here 12 years. But you have to put yourself in the mind space of that employee. They didn't pay attention to that. They didn't know it. They missed the communication that day. It's not important to them at that time. Now it is, right? There's that just-in-time communication, etc. So communication is so critical. And the elements of the communication plan are critical as well too. The why. So why are we doing this? What's in it for me as an employee? What's in it for me as a leader? What's in it for the organization as a whole? That's all going to help you communicate and buy in, etc. The aligning with the values, right? So, you've got a new CEO or a new senior leadership team, and you're launching new values in the organization. So how do you build on that? How you need to communicate that. This is what we're going to be measuring, rewarding, and recognizing in the organization, is where we see evidence of employees stepping up and exhibiting these behaviors, these values. That's the powerful thing about a recognition tool, is it can change behavior in an organization. It can launch culture, right? If this is the new culture, you want a culture of recognition, you want a culture of caring for people, you want a culture of team building, then you set your recognition program to reward and recognize those things, and you get the leaders to understand that that's what they're doing, and it builds from there. So how it's going to benefit the organization, the types of recognition and the criteria. So what are the elements? What can we reward for? What do these mean? Why do I reward, when I reward, and how? How to recognize how do I do this, right? So, Skay and I were just in a meeting, and I thought, oh my God, he stepped up, he took that off, he did this. He took 3 other items off my plate, took that out. I want to recognize Skay and just being such a great colleague, right? So I want to be able to know how, when I get back to my desk or right here on my phone, how I can recognize Skay in this new tool, right? I want to know
Mhm.
what buttons to push, how to do it, when I can do it, and what's involved.
And even a bit
Uh,
of a framework there. We often well, we internally ask employees to kind of follow the framework just around kind of situation, behavior, impact, right? And so when you're recognizing somebody within the system, try to detail, what was the situation and what behavior did the employee demonstrate, and what was the impact, and receiving that recognition is so nice because you can see, oh wow, this really kind of like, I can see how this made a difference to them or made a difference to the organization. And so having a bit of a framework, I think, goes a long way in terms of giving employees and managers kind of guidelines on like, here's how we'd like to kind of see recognition happening.
exactly, exactly. And timely, like, right? You're always reinforcing that that's the benefit of the program is that it's timely. You want them to also know in the communications where to go for feedback, where they can provide more feedback, where to go for help, goals for the program. We talked about that. Accessible information. Where do I get some more information all about it? And communicate as well that it's a process. We're gonna keep pivoting and learning and growing this process. So this could be what we're rewarding for this year, but we have the ability to change that next year and adapt and grow because we have a new initiative. We're a car company and we're now going electric. And so the people working on that team, we want to reinforce. So we're going to launch a new element of recognition for that group. There's just so many facets. And so you want to communicate that as well, too, that nothing is going to be, locked in stone forever. We're going to keep growing just like the organization does with that.
And what about like specific methods for kind of like communication? How do we get the message out to employees? And
Yeah.
you've worked with a lot of different types of organizations, from kind of retail to high tech to everything in between. So what have you seen kind of work really well in your experience?
Well, there's all the communication rules and standards, right? Like you have to say or do or communicate something 7 times before it's clicking in. And you need, at least 5 different formats, whether it's email or Slack or frontline training software, formal letters, schedules. The CEO sends out announcements. There's meetings, there's town halls. Way back in the day, gosh, I'm dating myself here, but we would look for opportunities to put information on something that employees had to see. That way we knew it had to be in front of them. So pay stubs were great for that. But when's the last time anybody looked at a pay stub? We don't have
Mm.
pay stubs. So that doesn't work. But we do have programs where we have wallpaper come across our laptops and our computers, right? So what can I put on there? Recognition is coming, launch program, such and such a date, hashtag. Use the social media in your organization. And that reminds me, from a communication perspective, find out who your ambassadors are. If that's a team of people or is it a particular leader that that is trusted, maybe a member of the senior leadership team, doesn't have to be, but people look up to this person. They follow them, they listen to them, they have the ear of the employee. That's great if you've got that person on board and they can sit on your project and help you with your launch and have them out there. It's like in today's social media, it's an influencer, right? Create your hashtag and link to the program. So don't go to Slack if you haven't launched Slack and it's not well accepted by your employees. But if you do have Slack or Yammer or any of those social media programs that you're using, or if your organization uses a lot of LinkedIn, whatever it is, link that to your recognition program and use that as part of your communication, right? Look at your generations, look at how people, what's been successful in the past, and then double it and double it and double it because there's never too much communication. It's a key part of your launch.
You know what the irony here is that once you've launched your recognition program, people pay attention to recognition programs, and especially if there's rewards in there.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so you can actually leverage your recognition tools to put messages in. And so like in Gusto, we've got a bulletin board on the login screen so that companies can get messages out because they know people are going to be logging in there to kind of redeem their rewards and whatnot. And so that's just an example of kind of once you get this launched, leveraging it to get other messages out to your employee base.
It's fascinating because I've seen certain places where that dashboard becomes more important to employees than the employer dashboard when they log in the morning. Do you know what I mean? Where they can set up and see the CEO's message. Here's the stock price. Here's this happening. They're going straight to Gusto, right? And getting their information that way because that's where they really know what's going on. Oh, Skye just got rewarded for this, or so and so for that. That's interesting.
Totally. So we've got one last question here for you from Marlo, and she says, "Do you have any tips to get people into the system for the first time?"
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one. So I've seen some really successful things where load up the program right off the bat. Like, can you give leaders amount and, tell them go out there and reward people, right? Create that energy. You can tie that to events happening in the organization. So let's suppose it's Earth Day and your company does shoreline cleanup, right? And you measure how much garbage different teams collected. So you're now going to give recognition and rewards for that day. Use that as part of, pushing people into the system to kind of say, hey, that's really neat because you've got 2% participation on shoreline cleanup. So why not leverage that? Or like I said before, it's the anniversary of your organization. And so what a better day to, launch that and award everybody with something for being such a positive organization and employee, over the last year, et cetera. A countdown to the launch is a neat idea as well. I think I mentioned that one earlier, but that aspect of, in 10 days, in 9 days, in 8 days, create the energy. People love that kind of thing. There's a stock ticker that's coming along across their laptop or the computer that they can see, or in the lunchroom, wherever it is, that tells people, what is this? Like, and even if you can create some mystery around it, so you've created your hashtag and it's hashtag, we've got it together, or whatever it is. What is that? What is that? To find out more, click here. And so you're creating that, having people talk about it, giving everybody the opportunity to send things, social media, use it the first week to enter people into a draw. I think it's where you can really put on your creativity hat, but aligned to your organization. You may want to do something really kind of new and kooky that still fits with the organization, but you've never done it before. Or you may want to go to tried and true. It worked last time when we did such and such with our launch, so I'm going to do that. But lean on those leaders and those champions to participate.
I think the interesting one with recognition that's different than a lot of other programs, right? Like if you're launching a benefits program or a training program, what's different about recognition and rewards is that you can actually incentivize people within the program itself.
Yes.
And so just giving everybody $5 to go in and reward somebody is going to be, hey, this is kind of cool. Like I could just go in and, with very kind of loose parameters. We don't need to be kind of too strict about this. $5 needs to go for, just go in, give it a try, send it to a friend, see how it goes.
Yeah, you can create your own company gratitude day. You can create your own company pay it forward day. You can put parameters on it that align to something or you don't. But it creates that energy, right? And then you need those key people to start talking about, hey, did you get your reward? What did you do? Or use social media. So, the only parameter you put on it is we're going to give everybody an award, but we would like you to come on social media and tell us what you did. Right? Because then we'll give you another one or something along those lines, right? And then you create that energy. Wow, never thought of, I went and bought a business book, or I went to Indigo, or I went out for lunch, or I added to this, whatever, that, those opportunities. And then that creates more energy. That creates more talking. All of that can make a launch really powerful.
The other one, and it's come up kind of a number of times here, but having your leadership participate in the program. And that kind of first week, it's so critical to have them using whatever system it is that you're launching with, and demonstrating like this is how we're going to do things, and we're in this with the rest of the team. You know, it's not something that we're asking the rest of the organization to do, but we believe in kind of the why, the purpose for this program, and we're going to be kind of using it. And so having them actually kind of in there and sending lots of recognition in that kind of first week, I think, is critical.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it just, the rebound effect of that kind of energy is really, really powerful for the program.
Okay, great. Well, this has been a fantastic kind of conversation. I hope that our audience has gotten a number of valuable kind of insights. What were your kind of takeaways? We've kind of gone through a bunch. If you wanted the audience to kind of walk away with kind of 3 things, you know, what were some of your takeaways?
I go back to that piece around knowing your organization. It's important to have that in the back of your mind or in the front of your mind when you're going to launch, right? Who are your key influencers in your organization? What else is going on in your organization? What does your organization value? What do they not value? What do they not have time for? And what, right? Know those going into this so that you can align with that and be true to yourselves and your organization. And who are those key influencers that you can use? Because that's all part of knowing your organization. Communication, that's my number 2. It should probably be the number 1. It's your best friend, and know what communication channels work best, or create new ones. Like it's so critical. Talk to networks, everything. Just make sure you really, really communicate. And I like the flexibility piece. I think we take this on, and it's a big project in our organization, and it's important. But I think we have to realize part of the potential for recognition is it's about engagement for our employees. It's about building a relationship between the employee. It's your value proposition. And so it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be why we want to work here. It's supposed to be why, right? So have some fun with the program and adapt and flex as you need to, right? It's going to work. It's going to get together, and it's about employees. So it's going to take a couple zigzags, but make it fun, make it enjoyable, and you'll get the rewards.
It kind of ties into, I'll share some of my takeaways, but my first one is you mentioned kind of testing programs. And I just think it's so key to kind of, if it's a software tool, just making sure that, you know, all of the customization that you've done to the tool and whatnot kind of makes sense, and kind of links are working or whatnot. But even just testing kind of like the general kind of program design and functionality, you know, like, is this making sense? Like, do we have kind of everything kind of loaded in the right way? Are we launching, you know, the proper components of our program design in kind of the right way? I'll echo your thought, you know, as a second one, just around timing for other initiatives and what other leaders have on their plate. I think it's key. And this also kind of ties back to kind of measurement, right? And being able to kind of like effectively measure the impacts of programs. If you've got too many things kind of running in parallel, it's difficult to kind of say, hey, this caused kind of a big increase in engagement. Well, we also launched these other 3 things, so who knows? And then lastly, if you're going to kind of partner with somebody on this program, really researching and looking for a partner that's going to invest in making kind of your launch a success, and not just kind of handing you a tool and saying kind of, hey, figure it out. But, you know, have you done this before with other clients? You know, is there kind of a mapped out plan? How are we going to kind of make that work for us? And really kind of working with that team through not just kind of launching the program, but through kind of that first kind of 30, 60, 90 days to kind of, to your point, being able to adjust and kind of tweak things.
Yeah, great takeaways, Kate. Great. I love the testing piece and even testing in different environments, right? Like, you know, can we reward people in the office? Can I reward people if I'm at home? Can I reward in this environment, that environment? Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it's just so hard to get something perfect out of the gate.
Right.
And so being able to kind of manage expectations and being willing to kind of launch something and adapt, I think is critical. And we talked a lot, at Gusto about kind of rolling things out in kind of a phased approach, right? And I think that's kind of critical to the success of a recognition launch. So, Shelley, it's been wonderful to kind of connect. This is the first time that you and I got to do one of these sessions together.
Yes,
and,
great.
I look forward to kind of doing the next one. And so for all of those kind of tuning in, if you'd like to kind of connect with Shelley or I, we're both on LinkedIn. You can check out everything about Gusto just at gusto.com there. And we'll look forward to seeing you next week at our kind of AMA. And we also have a webinar with a big healthcare company called Compass happening tomorrow. So we're going to learn about kind of what worked really well for them. So if you're in the healthcare industry, encourage you to kind of check that out. They're going to have some great insights. So with that, have a great week, everybody. And we'll look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, everyone. Bye.